Hello, everyone. I'm Ethan, 32 years old, living in a suburban Chicago home with my wife, Lily, and our daughter, Rose. We run a small trucking company with a fleet of 10 vehicles. To outsiders, our life looks prosperous, as if we've got everything figured out. But the truth is, this house and business aren't solely the fruit of my labor. I was a long-haul trucker, pulling in about $4,000 a month after taxes. Lily worked as a retail associate for a clothing store, but her earnings were unsteady and often too low to sustain us. Life was tough. We rented a modest two-bedroom apartment in a rough Chicago neighborhood, with rent consuming nearly half my income. Each month, we'd count every penny to ensure we could provide for Rose. I'd drive 14-hour shifts from Chicago to Texas and back, chasing overtime pay that barely covered our bills. I'd stumble home at 2 or 3 a.m., drained, only to rise again by 6 a.m. for the next haul. Lily's job at the store paid a small base salary, with commissions that dwindled to $1,800 a month during slow seasons. We often had to borrow money just to get by. For Rose's 5th birthday, we could only afford a simple home party with store-bought cupcakes and modest gifts. Her beaming smile at those small gestures warmed my heart, but also stung deeply. Everything changed after Christmas 2023, oddly enough, because of how my family judged me. Their scorn paved the way for the life I have now. To explain, let me take you back to a phone call I received from my grandfather a week before Christmas. I was driving back to Chicago after 3 days of hauling furniture when Grandpa's name lit up my phone. His warm voice came through the Bluetooth, easing the loneliness of the endless highway. After checking on me and my work, he said gently, "Ethan, Christmas is next Sunday. Bring Lily and Rose for dinner at 7. I miss Rose so much." His kindness was a balm after those grueling days, and I promised we'd be there. My grandfather, Harold, was 78 but sharp as ever. Every few years, he hosted a family dinner at his home to gather everyone. He had 4 sons. My father, Richard, the eldest, followed by uncles Martin, Felix, and Leonard. Martin was a braggart, a regional manager for an insurance firm who loved boasting about his big deals. Whenever he saw me, he'd smirk and say, "Still hauling trucks, Ethan. When are you getting a real career?" Felix was quieter but judgmental, running a small diner and sizing people up with a sneer, as if their clothes revealed their worth. My father, Richard, was the worst. As the eldest, he acted like the guardian of the family's reputation, running a modest construction business and flaunting minor successes. He was ashamed of me, often saying, "Let's not talk about Ethan. His truck driving shames me." Once he even told me to my face, "You're a disgrace driving trucks. I can't face my friends." When asked about my job at family events, he dodged the question or shift to praising my younger brother, Derek, his pride and joy. Uncle Leonard was the only one who treated me with respect. A school teacher with a modest income, he once told me, "Your job doesn't define you, Ethan. You provide for your family with honest work, and that's honorable." I genuinely liked Leonard, unlike Martin, Felix, or my father, whom I quietly despised. Still, I agreed to attend the Christmas dinner because Grandpa invited us. I had no clue that decision would transform my life. That evening, I told Lily and Rose about the dinner. Rose, just 6, hugged me tightly, thrilled, asking, "So I'll finally meet Great-Grandpa Harold, right, Daddy?" Her excitement warmed me, and I smiled, saying, "Yes, he misses you a lot." She ran to Lily, shouting, "Mommy, I'm going to draw a special picture for him." As Rose darted to her room, Lily looked at me with worry. She leaned in and whispered, "Are you sure we should go?" I knew what she meant. Family dinners often left me silent and withdrawn for days, weighed down by their criticism. After a pause, I sank onto the couch and said, "I don't know, but it's Grandpa's invitation. We can't say no." Lily took my hand gently and said, "I'm not scared of their words, but I'm worried about Rose." Her words hit hard. I'd thought the same. After a long silence, I suggested, "Maybe we'll stay briefly, wish Grandpa a Merry Christmas, and leave early." Lily nodded quietly. For the next 3 days, I was torn. I wanted to see Grandpa, the one family member who showed me unconditional love, but dreaded facing my father and uncle's judgment, especially with Lily and Rose there. The day before the dinner, Rose's excitement over her drawing for Grandpa solidified my resolve. We'd go, and I'd shield my daughter from any cruel remarks. On Christmas Day, we drove 2 hours from Chicago to Rockford in our old car. Rose chattered about her drawing, which she'd made with Lily's help, saying, "Daddy, I drew Great-Grandpa smiling with a Christmas tree." We stopped at a bakery for Harold's favorite apple pie and arrived at his house around 6 p.m. Cars lined the street, including my parents' sedan and Derek's new SUV. I figured they'd arrived early to boast before I got there. We parked at the end of the block and walked to the house. The gate was open for the festive gathering, and as we reached the door, Derek stood there with a beer, smirking. "Well, look who showed up. The truck driver," he said mockingly. His words stung, but I stayed silent, gripping Lily's hand as Rose followed unaware. Inside, the living room buzzed with nearly 30 people. My parents, uncles' families, and distant relatives like Aunt Clara and Uncle Amos, plus some unfamiliar faces, likely their kids or grandkids. I hadn't seen most of them in years. Uncle Leonard greeted me warmly, saying, "Ethan, you're late. Traffic." I nodded politely. "Yeah, the roads were busy." He smiled and said, "Find a seat for your family. Grandpa's coming out soon." His kindness touched me deeply. He wasn't my father, but made me feel more valued than Richard ever had. As we looked for seats, I felt eyes on us. Some nodded politely, others stared with subtle contempt. What I didn't know was that my family would soon be asked to leave. As we searched for a place to sit, my father's sharp voice cut through the noise. Standing from a leather chair, he said coldly, "In this house, seats are for those who have made something of themselves." My heart raced, my face flushed. I forced myself to stay calm and asked, "What's that supposed to mean, Dad?" Derek chimed in venomously. "It means failures like you don't belong here." The words hit like a slap, especially in front of everyone. Lily clutched Rose tightly, her face pale. Then Uncle Martin clapped mockingly, saying, "Derek's right. This room's for winners. Still driving trucks forever, Ethan." Uncle Felix added sharply, "We're all a bit ashamed when people ask what you do." Their attacks felt like a public execution. I saw Rose trembling, confused, clinging to Lily. I was about to speak when Uncle Leonard stood, his voice firm. "Enough. It's Christmas, for heaven's sake." His words cut through the tension, offering a brief reprieve. But the air grew heavier when Grandpa entered, his face calm yet stern. He scanned the room and said, "Leonard, enough, they're right." His words shocked me. He was siding with them. He looked at me with pity, then announced, "We'll vote. If you want Ethan out, raise your hand." Silence gripped the room. Some looked confused, others gleeful. Leonard protested, "Are you serious, Dad?" Grandpa's gaze was unyielding. "I'm not joking." My world crumbled. Slowly, hands rose. Richard's first, cold and triumphant, then Derek's with a smirk. Martin and Felix followed, their wives and kids hesitantly joining. Aunt Clara and Uncle Amos wavered but raised their hands under pressure. I counted 28 out of 30 hands up, only Leonard and his wife, Aunt Grace, staying still. Leonard, red with fury, grabbed Grace's hand and stormed toward the door, pausing to whisper to Grandpa, "I'm ashamed of you." He turned to me, saying, "Let's go, Ethan. These people aren't family." Stunned, I took Lily and Rose's hands, following Leonard. As we passed Grandpa, I felt betrayed, wondering why he'd invited me just to humiliate me. Rose still clutched her drawing, confused. At the door, Grandpa's voice boomed, "Stop right there." We froze. He turned to the room and said icily, "The ones leaving are those with their hands up." Chaos erupted, shouts, protests. Richard yelled, "You can't do this." Martin and Felix joined in, panicked. Grandpa, unmoved, said, "I taught you family means love and loyalty, yet you mock Ethan for driving trucks." Richard tried to justify himself, saying, "I'm pushing him to be better." Grandpa's gaze hardened. "Victor, aren't you ashamed? 12 years ago, when you went bankrupt, Ethan, at 18, dropped college to drive trucks and support you. And you poured every cent into Derek." The room fell silent. Those words unearthed painful memories. At 18, when Richard's business collapsed with $300,000 in debt, I gave up a scholarship to become a trucker, paying Derek's tuition and family expenses. In 2015, Grandpa gave Richard $400,000 to clear his debts. But instead of gratitude, they scorned me because Richard's associates thought a truck-driving son hurt their image. After a 2016 argument where Richard called me a disgrace, I cut contact, building a life with Lily and Rose without them. Only Grandpa and Leonard stayed in touch, urging reconciliation, but Richard demanded I change jobs first. Grandpa's revelation shifted the room's energy. Richard, defiant, said, "I raised him, he owed me." Grandpa, furious, declared, "I plan to split my savings today, but you don't deserve a cent." Panic spread. Richard shouted, "That's our inheritance." Grandpa revealed, "I sold half the farm for $4 million, meant to be split among my sons and grandchildren, $400,000 each. But after today, only Leonard and Ethan get it." Richard, Martin, and Felix begged, but Grandpa was resolute, adding, "In 2 days, I'll transfer the other half of the farm, worth $3 million, to them too." Defeated, they left bitter. Richard spat, "Happy now, Ethan? You've torn this family apart." I held Lily and Rose close, saying nothing. After they left, we packed untouched catered food, roasted chicken, bread, salads, desserts, and drove to downtown Rockford to feed the homeless. Rose, initially shy, handed out cookies, her small acts of kindness lighting up faces. She hugged me after, saying, "Daddy, I'm happy." They smiled so big. It was our best Christmas. Back at Grandpa's, the six of us, me, Lily, Rose, Leonard, Grace, and Harold, ate together, the table warm despite its emptiness. Rose gave Grandpa her drawing, which he promised to hang in the living room. Over apple pie, he handed Leonard and me $2 million checks each, saying he'd transfer the farm's deed soon. Overwhelmed, I thanked him, feeling the weight of his trust. That night, lying with Lily and Rose, I felt relief but also sorrow for our fractured family. Lily and I vowed to use the money wisely, staying humble. The next morning, Richard, Derek, and my mother waited at our apartment, demanding I split the $2 million. I refused, saying, "Take it to court, but you're getting nothing." Richard raged, but I stood firm. We later used the money to start our trucking business, securing a stable future for Rose without forgetting who we are. Thank you for watching my story. If you enjoyed it, please subscribe and press the bell icon. Stay tuned for more real-life stories, get more experiences.